Hello, this is Becca from Aloe Health Designs and welcome. The very first part of this video is I was walking past the dining room and I spotted my quilt on the dining room chair. I had been working on it the night before. It was draped over the back of the dining room chair, and it just made me so happy to see that little quilt there. It's finally coming together. I'm putting a lot of it together. It's almost all put together, and it just represented the fruition of our last 6 months of slow stitching. I have just enjoyed it so much, all the slow stitching that we've done over the last 6 months for 20 prompts. And it's finally coming together. I just think that's so exciting. So that's what that was. I was sharing that. And this center portion here of the quilt is all of the slow stitched blocks from the 20 prompts that we were given. And then, as you can see, around the quilt are these blocks from the unknown quilter. I'm calling her the unknown quilter. I am just so thrilled to have her blocks. Isn't that almost strange to say, but I don't know, I just feel a connection with these little blocks. I love them. I love the colors. I love that they were all hand stitched together. I love that they're from an era gone by, and I'm just thrilled to combine them with my work as well. It's just one of those things that makes you happy. So the prompt from this past week was to fill in any gaps that you might have on your little quilt. So this is what I did. This was the block I did. This was 18, 19, and 20 were done and sewn together, and I just needed block 17 to finish this up. So let me see if I can go in closer and show this little guy here. So this is the 20th prompt, and I put it over here, wanting to kind of connect this block with the block below it to kind of, again, sort of make a flow across the quilt, some continuity there. And so I chose a little puppy dog from those vintage embroideries that we see. I'm not sure exactly when they originated, these little designs, this style. And it's just done with one strand of embroidery floss. And I think, yes, it's the outline stitch, or that's my favorite stitch, outline stitch around this whole thing. And I just did him in a brown to give it that vintage feel to go with the rest of the quilt. And let's see if I can maybe bring it up a little bit closer. Not sure. Yeah, there you can kind of see. He's just the outline, and then I just added a little collar here with, I think I did a running stitch and then wrapped it, or it may have been an outline stitch and then I wrapped it, just to show that he's a little boy dog. And these simple flowers, these are very typical of that period of time as well. And added some little grass in here. These are stem stitch here as well, and straight stitches. And I don't know if these are colonial knots or French knots, either one. I added some laces also to this block in this fabric. I wanted again to continue that fabric from the block above, just for the flow of the quilt and the little blocks. This is the fabric that I used in this half circle here. I've chosen to use half circles quite a bit in the quilt. I just like the movement that they give. This is a very vintage fabric. This is by Robin Pandolf. I don't know if anyone knows her, but I loved her fabrics. They were very, very soft fabrics, colors, and very feminine. They're just very, very pretty. So this is definitely vintage. This has been around for a while, and I don't know if she's still designing or not, but that's the fabric that I used for this quarter circle here, or sort of a quarter circle there. And then these pieces of lace that I added, let's see, I have this doily, or what is left of it. Let me see if I can show you. This was a beautiful doily, and I feel it wasn't particularly vintage or anything like that, or expensive. I just loved it, but I did cut it up. It was hard to cut it, but I did. So the flowers that are right here came right out of this center of this quilt, and I've used other pieces from this quilt also, and I'll show you up above where they have been used, but I love this doily. So this one gave me that, and there's still lots left to use in this doily. So this doily gave me those center flowers, which I felt like went very well with this little embroidery, because it looks like he's out in a meadow, I think, anyway. And I also used this lace, which I absolutely love. This is a vintage lace. And I just used a little teeny tiny piece of it up here to kind of, again, continue that flow from the block above. Little tiny piece of that. And then lastly, I used this piece of lace for up in this corner. And I have more of that lace. It's white. This one I coffee dyed just to give it sort of a vintage look, and I'll turn it this way so that you can maybe see. This is the piece that I used right here. To me, it looked like a little umbrella, kind of, but I just thought it was an interesting little piece for the corner of the block. And so I just cut that out and stitched that down. And then on that little piece of lace, I added some, I think this is embroidery floss. I don't think this is, no, I'm wrong. This is pearl cotton in a size 12. And I just did some, I think these are colonial knots, and then a larger French knot up here, and then just a little tiny running stitch around here, around the edge, to just kind of add something to the little block. I felt, you know, there was blank space here, all up in here and here, and this color kind of ties in with this and with this, and the circular and the little corner elements ties in with the colors here, and of course this with this. So trying not to make it too choppy, but make things kind of flow in where I could. I'll try to give you a little close-up of this little block here. And I just love this. I love these vintage embroideries. I don't know, I love the thought of that era, that bygone era. It's just, I don't know, I guess it was a more simple and innocent time than the times that we live in, and so I love them. And kind of all along, to go with that vintage feel, I have this little cup in my basket, and this was my mother's. This was part of a set with cups and saucers and sugar and creamer and dishes. I have the sugar and creamer, and I think I have one cup, and my sister has, I think, some of the dishes. But I love this. It's a red glass. I don't know if you can see that, but it's just so pretty, and it kind of goes, these are my little granddaughter's rubber bands that she makes, the little tiny rubber bands that she makes bracelets with, and I confiscated a few of hers. She said she didn't mind, so I usually put them on my stitch bows for my floss. They come in handy to just keep everything corralled. I love these stitch bows because you just slip it right off of the floss as it comes, and you just slip it right onto this bow, and there's no winding on bobbins or anything. It's just so convenient. I love it. So it kind of goes with the whole vintage feel of this quilt. So let me just see if I can back out for a minute. I'll move this over. So this is the quilt so far going together. This center section is all of the 20 prompts, all of this 4 by 5 down. And then there's a very narrow 1/2-inch sashing strip between these little blocks and the slow stitched blocks. And I am just thrilled to have these vintage blocks by, I'm calling her the Unknown Quilter. And it just seems strange, but I feel such a connection with this little quilter. I love these blocks. I love the colors. I love the fact that she stitched them by hand. I mean, I would not do that. I would break out my machine and definitely be zipping along these half square triangles, but she sewed all of these, and some of the blocks I had to trim down, you know, to make them all a uniform size. So we have some kind of variations in the sizes of the triangles, and on this little block I had to add a sashing strip, or let's see, where is it? Oh no, is that the block? No, I think it's this one here. No? Oh, it's here. I'll find it. This little block here, there's the sashing for the quilt, but this one I had to add a little piece because this block was small. If you can see it next to this one, it was smaller than the others, and I didn't want to leave that out, and it worked out mathematically, so I just put a sashing strip around this one. But I just love the fact that I have her blocks along with my work. I don't know, there's a connection there. It's just very special. And these fabrics, I mean, I don't recall seeing anything like this ever in my life, and I'm guessing maybe 40s, in that era, 30s to 50s, I think. That's my guess, and that's an uneducated guess. But that's what I think that these fabrics are, and they go with the vintage feel. I tried to keep a very vintage feel with all of each one of my blocks, all of the prompts. Tried to keep that vintage theme going. And so once I got this center sewn together, and then I wanted to add these sashing strips to float this center portion from the border blocks. I felt it would be too much confusion to put them right next to the center section. I felt like they needed a little separation just for your eye to rest and appreciate the individual elements. So once I got the sides sewn, I put those on after the sashings were on, and then I put the top on, and I put the bottom on, the bottom blocks here onto the quilt. And I realized now I had one more border to add to this quilt, and that is the hand-stitched border that I've been working on. And that border was longer than what these little hand-stitched blocks from the Unknown Quilter turned out to be. So this was longer, and so I knew I had to add something to, because this is all hand-stitched, and I didn't want to cut anywhere, you know, a portion of this and have maybe this unravel, the stitching, the hand stitching. So I had to make it again work out mathematically. So I added this border on here, and this one has the red lines, the friction lines drawn on it for quilting. But and I will, let's see, I can bring it up this way and show you. maybe a little better. Come all the way down here. So I added one block, one cornerstone to this hand embroidered border, and that will go right at the top of this, and that little half square triangle will be the cornerstone. So that will be like that, and the other hand stitched border will come down from there. So I'll first sew on that side hand embroidered border, the two sides, and then I'll do the top and bottom. And this fabric that I used to accommodate this border so that this border would fit the entire quilt is the Beatrix powder fabric that I have used in some of the blocks. And I don't know if you can see that, but it's Peter Rabbit and Benjamin Bunny and the little bunnies and Peter in Farmer McGregor's garden. And I just thought that that was perfectly fitting to go with this, and I've used that in some of the blocks here. We can see here's one of them where that fabric is used. I've also used it here. I've used it up here in the blue. So I felt that that fabric really went nicely with the quilt. I felt it all tied in together, and it will let me use these hand embroidered borders. Let's see if I can bring this here. It's kind of hard to get this all in the picture. So if you can see that, I'll probably have to move that over a bit. And I've started hand stitching here to quilt this border. I've already quilted 2 borders. So just 1 second, let me just move this. There. So now it can come down. Let's see. There we go. That's a little better. Now you can get kind of a better idea of what it will look like. And the other 2 borders, which I don't think I have them here at the moment, but will go like this. So those will be the sides. So it'll be there. I think you can see that now. So that's what it will look like, and oddly enough, it seems to fit perfectly right now. But I'm not sewing the other little block on the end just yet until I'm positive that it fits after I quilt all this. Then I will put the little block on this end. I've just got it pinned on for now. And this fabric is a vintage fabric that I've had for a long time. And I chose to highlight the pink pinwheel on this one and the green pinwheel on this one, which will be sewn to the other end of this border piece. I've used the yellow here. And then on this one, I have the blue. And the pink will go on this end. So there'll be like a little half square triangle that encloses this little border, kind of making everything look inward. Gosh, I have to do some gymnastics here to get this all in. So I am just so thrilled with this little quilt. I've never made a quilt like this, never. This is not something I have ever done before, so this is so interesting to me. And so these little half square triangles will face out almost like a border, and then this kind of connects here like this. I don't know if I'll put something in this little square here, but so far that's that's where it stands, and I'll just show you. Let me just attach this so I don't lose it to this end of this border. I must have left the other two in the other room. These are the top and bottom borders, and I have the side borders. But I'll just show you. I don't know if you can actually see it on the camera, but I have been hand quilting this with a pearl cotton number 12 white. Just this DMC number 12 pearl cotton. And I'm not sure if you can see that. Maybe you can see it a little bit better on the back. See the stitching there? And I've just done 2 rows of stitching, and I had to put batting on the back of this, these borders as well, so that everything matched as far as texture. So these borders are being quilted, and as far as the backing goes, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use for that. I have 2 choices for that, and because of the way this little quilt is done, each of the 20 prompts are basically quilted themselves because of all the hand stitching in them, and these are quilted. I did a big stitch quilting on all of these. I'm quilting these borders now. So to attach the back, I don't know if I want any visible quilting stitches on the front of the quilt, since it's already pretty much quilted here and here. So what I may do is use this fabric as a backing. This is a 1930s also. This is an Aunt Grace Garden Variety by Judy Rothermel. So I may just put a solid piece of this on the back of this little quilt, and in order to attach this to this, I may just tie in the corners of all of these little prompt blocks. That may be an option. So I may just put a tie here, bring it through to the back, and tie it in each of the corners, and that will secure the back of the quilt to the front of the quilt. And then I'll do something along here and in these blocks as well. And because it's one solid piece of fabric, it won't matter where these fall. The other option, which I had thought of originally to do, and I will just show you quickly. The other option was this these little hand embroidered blocks, which I was going to put on the back of this little quilt. These are, oh, I love these, love, love, love these vintage blocks. So I don't know if I will put this on the back and then not worry too much where the threads come through where I tie the front of the quilt to the back of the quilt, or should I just leave this and make this a separate quilt? I don't know. Look at all these little Humpty Dumpty, a rocking horse, Humpty Dumpty again. And these are all bordered by 1930s fabrics, and little Scotty dog, and a little jumpy doll, or whatever they may have been called. And then another Humpty Dumpty, and all of these again, these are 1930s fabrics. And these have the same half square triangles bordering this. So I joined all of these blocks to match the front of the quilt. But then when I thought about quilting it all, I just thought, you know, what if a tie lands right in the center of this block, or on this dog, or, you know, it may be very irregular. So I don't know. I may just save this and make this another quilt with just 1930s fabrics, or I may use it on the back, or I may use the solid. I'm kind of leaning towards the solid piece of fabric just because wherever I tie from the front, it's not going to matter too much in the back. So, yeah, that presented kind of a little problem here. And the other thing I thought I would mention quickly, one of the things that I did when sewing these blocks together, because all of these blocks, the hand-sewn blocks from the Unknown Quilter and my blocks that were slow-stitched, all have batting on the back of them. So they've all been joined with a 1/4-inch seam. And so what I did to just kind of ensure that this seam would stay open and, you know, not fold up or crinkle up, because it's only a 1/4-inch seam and there's a lot of thickness there. So what I did was I used some, let's see if I have it here. It's a fusible interfacing lightweight. I did have some here, but I don't see it offhand. No, I don't see it, and you probably can't see it here, but all of these seams I've ironed a strip of fusible interfacing, very lightweight, and it just keeps the seams nice and flat and keeps them from curling up and, you know, getting all bunchy, so that when you have the back of the quilt on here, you won't see lumps and bumps from these seams. These seams will be all just secured really with that. And it doesn't cover the whole block. These are just strips that I ironed across the seams and in between the individual blocks. So that's basically it where I am right now. Once I finish hand quilting the border, and I've drawn in 2 lines. I've drawn a line 1 inch from this sashing. This is 1 inch, and then 1 inch from here to here, and just running 2 stitches, 2 lines of hand quilting, big stitch hand quilting on these borders. Once these are done, I will add the hand embroidered borders that I showed earlier, and I will come back and show you when it's all completed with the backing and everything on. So it will look like that once we get all of these little wonderful elements taken care of. So thank you very much for joining me today. I'll come back to my little fill-in blog. That's my fill-in. And thank you for joining me. And I'm wishing you many blessings. I hope everyone is able to get done what they need to get done. I am in the midst of wrapping and shopping still. My friend was telling me she's all shopped, she's all wrapped, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I am in the throes of wrapping and shopping. Matter of fact, I'm going to go back to wrapping as soon as I'm done here. So thank you very much for spending some time with me, and I'm wishing you many blessings. Bye for now.